Good morning and welcome to Dakota Preparedness. Disaster preparedness goes way beyond simply keeping supplies and gear. It involves building a well-rounded skill set of skills that will be of assistance during a disaster and also are in many ways essential life skills. There's 14 that I will cover. Now stay with me because I will be providing tips, pearls of wisdom, and additional sources of information for each of these 14 skill sets. Number one is first aid and CPR. It's just common sense that during a disaster, or even in normal times, if someone gets injured or sick, that you need to be able to provide initial care, and in some cases long-term care, if professional medical services isn't arriving in a timely manner. Now, thankfully, there are a number of sources of information for this. One of the key ones is the book, The Survival Medicine Handbook, written by Joseph Alton and Amy Alton. Now, Joe is a medical doctor and Amy is a nurse practitioner. You will find they also have been very generous with their time on posting to YouTube. Joe Alton goes by Dr. Bones, that's one word, and Amy goes by Nurse Amy, one word. And they have a number of excellent videos. Another source on YouTube is a website called Preparedness, one word. And then a third one is Skinny Medic, one word. There's an additional website that I would highly recommend. He does have some YouTube videos under American Safety EMT. That's all one word. But his company website is www.foramericansafety.com. And he has 4 just excellent DVDs out. One is called First Aid, then there's Knife Wounds, Gunshot Wounds, and Blunt Trauma Wounds. And they each sell for about $25. So make sure that you have the proper training via reading the literature, viewing appropriate YouTube videos. Now, I would highly recommend that for the CPR that you actually take a hands-on physical course. The dummies that you will practice on are sometimes somewhat lifelike, but usually the key thing is when you do the chest compressions, it's very similar to doing chest compressions on someone who has stopped breathing. And I have been thoroughly trained on CPR, and I have done CPR on a number of people. Actually, late in life, my 4th career, I went to nursing school, I became an RN, and I worked in the field for 6 years. Number 2, fire safety. Know where the fire extinguishers are in your house. Know how to evacuate your house in case of the fire gets out of hand. Have your family trained, and also have appropriate perimeter fire safety. We live in the middle of a forest, and so after each storm, what I call blowdown, when branches of all sizes and shapes and occasionally some trees come down, I have to go up and gather them up, pile them up, cut up the trees, and then about twice a year I burn them so that there isn't ground fuel within 100 feet of my house. Also have a hose long enough for a couple 100 feet, in my case, to get water to a fire. Have a fire axe and hoe. Have a shovel. You need the essential equipment. You need the essential training for fire safety. Number 3 is shelter and clothing. Now, at first it may seem odd that I've combined those two, but I'll explain it. Key is having a good solid roof system over your head. Make sure the plumbing and electrical system doors and windows are properly maintained, and in general, your home should be structurally sound. Also, be able to know how to construct primitive shelters and certainly put up a tent. Now, also part of shelter is what I call the microenvironment. In other words, the clothes that you're wearing. And it is key to understand how to layer. When I was a young man in South Dakota, we would go camping in the middle of the winter, and it was important to put on long johns, top and bottom, put on wool pants or synthetic pants, not cotton, and sometimes even putting over that snow pants. And then on the top side, you would certainly have your shirt, but then you would have like a felt jacket, then a wool jacket, and then finally a shell. Usually at that time, Gore-Tex was not invented, but certainly today I would advocate a Gore-Tex lining or a similar product to protect you from the wind and the moisture. So a microenvironment is part of your shelter. Number 4 is water purification. Now, I prefer filtering water using the Sawyer gravity fed system or a Sawyer squeeze system. One time I was in Canada hiking. There were seemingly no streams or creeks. I finally got to a lake, and it was just full of algae. I waded quite a ways out. Had no choice, so I gathered up some of the water with a tremendous amount of algae in it, filtered it through a Sawyer squeeze. First pass, still didn't look good. Took the filtered water and refiltered it a second time. Still didn't quite look good. So I took the unfiltered water and filtered it a third time. Now it looked reasonable, and I drank it. And no ill effects. Now, in hindsight, I think I might have wanted to boil it too, but I was fine. So know how to filter water and have the proper equipment. Storage of water is key. I prefer the Aquatainers, the 7-gallon containers that you can get from Walmart. But I also have 35-gallon, 45-gallon, 55-gallon, and then what's called a water tote, which actually comes in different sizes, but the ones I use are 250 gallons. And my intent is before I ever used any stored water, I would filter it. Now, also, we specifically looked for property that had a spring on it, so we have a creek, we have a large pond. There's a nearby even larger spring. So, have a sources of waters, have a method to, and learn how to have a rain catchment system. Number 5 is food storage and preparation. Key here is knowing how to process raw food into a form where you can store it long term. So one very ancient system is called canning. My wife's an expert on that. I know very little about that, but several times a year she'll have a canning session where she cans like peaches and so on. Another thing is what's called a food saver. It's a little machine that you can get from Walmart. I'm sure you could get it from Amazon also. And it comes with bags, and you put the food in the bag, and then you put it into a nozzle that takes all the oxygen out of the bag, and then it seals it. So this is very advantageous for things like protein bars, and also products that go into your freezer will last much, much longer if you put them in a food saver package. The art of cooking is vital. To know how to properly heat and cook food, how to grill it, how to fry it, the use of the right seasonings, and key in this is baking. Now, there's a company called The Great Courses, which you can find on the web. And they have numerous courses on all sorts of subjects, but they have a number of on cooking and indeed one on baking. So I would highly recommend the great courses. Now, I personally always buy when it's on sale. I don't think I've ever paid full price for one of their courses. And as a general statement, the courses are usually just outstanding. The skill set number 6 is home and self-defense. Now, as a young man from 7th grade to 12th, I was a high school wrestler. And I also took a judo class one time. I would highly recommend that if you're physically able to do something like that. I think today they actually have clubs in some of the larger cities. And I think today, if I was really of the physical condition where I wouldn't get all broke up, I would take Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You want to have your house with a layered approach, so depending on your situation, have an appropriate gate and or fence. Have a driveway alarms, which can be obtained at Home Depot. Have security cameras. Have your doors be solid. There's also film that they can apply to your windows, to key select windows, and it will make it more difficult to break that glass, but it also will give you a two-way mirror effect, so you can see who's on the outside, but they can't see you on the inside. Have double locks on your doors. Have a bracing bar. One truly outstanding home defense is have appropriately trained dog. There's nothing like a young dog who has phenomenal smelling and hearing abilities to be a alarm dog. And an intelligent dog like a German Shepherd can be trained to do many other things, such as rescue. Also, if someone does breach your door, I personally use a Glock 17 9mm with a light on it. When I do concealed carry, I use a Sig Sauer 365 extended, so it's 17 rounds. I usually just put 15 in it, and I have 2 other magazines. So if you can't defend yourself with 45 rounds, my suggestion is throw the gun down and run. Now, ideally, if things got so bad that you needed something more than a pistol, I personally prefer the AR-15. I would recommend here, once again, receiving some professional training. I went to a 2-day training course where a retired U.S. Army First Sergeant taught the class. He was a grandmaster at his subject, and he was also an excellent teacher. Make sure you understand the legalities of gun ownership. There's an excellent website called Armed Attorneys, where there's several attorneys that talk about different legalities of gun ownership. And then there's another website where the gentleman had a career in law enforcement, and it's called Ethical Preparedness. And he also provides some excellent information. In summary, if you're not in fear of your life, don't use a gun. So be trained, know legally what you can do and not do, and have the proper home security and personal security. Number 7 is have skills where you can duplicate the modern conveniences of the iPhone to a certain degree by knowing how to use a ham radio. Now, actually, it's easier to get a ham license than you would think. I personally obtained a review book, read the book, then on the web, and this is legitimately, they have sample courses or sample tests. And I would take the test, If there was a question that I missed or I didn't really understand the proper answer, I would go to my review book and review it. And then you pay a very nominal amount and go down and take a test. As a matter of fact, I think a ham club provided the test, and I don't recall there was a charge for it. You send off the paperwork to the government, and you get your ham license. And then I have had to renew it. It was a very simple thing. You did it online. The ham radio with what's called a relay station, I can communicate to any of fellow ham operators within our county, which is to say, a range of about 30, 40 miles. So having a ham license is a really good approach. Another approach is just to use what's called a family service radio, which at Costco or Walmart or Amazon you can purchase. It requires no license. They will tell you the range is 25 miles. Well, that might be true if you were in Nevada in the desert and everything was flat and you were up on a little hill. But we live in a mountainous area, and a family service radio, while advantageous, will really only go a mile or two. But if you think about it, it's a real force multiplier to be able to communicate with your family or someone else in your group or your neighborhood within a radius of 1 or 2 miles. I also know how to use an AM, FM shortwave radio. Now, pretty much everybody, I would think, can easily figure out how to use AM, FM, and also the shortwave. But one of the things with the shortwave radio, you can actually get on the internet and search for shortwave stations in English and print yourself off a list. So even though you're listening to a station in Asian, it's in your native language of English in my case. So communications. Number 8 is gardening and food production. Wow, is this a huge subject? And this is one where I would say educate yourself. I took a homesteading class from a local community college. I listened to a bunch of great courses on gardening, and I would say I still didn't know what I was doing. So you just have to jump in and do some gardening. And Mother Nature will tell you the do's and don't do's. Now, it has been very helpful that within my social network, I know a fellow that is an absolute master gardener. He doesn't have a big garden. He has 2 big gardens, and then he's done what's called permaculture, much of his property with apple trees, peach trees, grapevines, and he has been very free to answer any questions I have asked him, and also to invite us out on numerous occasions, my wife and I, and he walks us through his 2 giant gardens and his permaculture and answers questions and points things out. So try to find a mentor for gardening. Number 9 is energy generation and conservation. So know how to use gas generators, propane generators. The solar generators are just incredible. Know how to use them, know how to use solar. Now, a lot of people, they think that you have to have a giant investment with solar. It's not free. I mean, the energy is, but you need the equipment where you can use it. I know one fellow, just the batteries cost him $14,000. I use a Renogy starter kit. I have 3 of them, so each of them comes with 2 100-watt panels, and you can buy an inexpensive connector where you can connect 2 of them, 4 of them. I guess there's even a cord for all 6 of them. And those can work with your solar generators or a self-built deep cycle battery sets using a solar controller in between. So learn about how you can self-generate energy. Also know how to just something as primitive as starting a fire so that you can get warmth and cook and so on from an open campfire or in a cast iron stove. Know how to do land navigation, not with just a geographical positioning system on your iPhone or a dedicated one, but know how to use a map and compass. And do this within a mile or two of your home. And if you do this just a few times, at least within that immediate radius of your home, you'll be able to navigate without even the map or the compass. If you have a nearby town that you visit often, once again, know how to get home with a map or compass, and indeed get home without one. Number 11, advanced craft and repairs. Know basic carpentry, sewing, and tool usage can be invaluable for fixing tools and making shelters. Know how to use knives, a saw, axes, a chainsaw. Learn how to repair a small engine or even an automobile. Number 12, have mental resilience. Now, this is sometimes by nature of a person's life and experiences, but there are ways to develop it. There's a couple good books. One is called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. It's an old book, but it's a type of book that never goes out of date. Also, When Bad Things Happen to Good People is another excellent book. Thinking about the future and preparing for it will help you in your mental resilience. Number 13 is community building. Join some groups. Know your neighbors. If someone in the neighborhood throws a barbecue, go to it. If need be, you put on the barbecue. Join a church. Join a veterans organization. Have a network of supportive people. And 14, a little bit odd, but you'd be surprised how many people don't know how to swim. So if you don't learn, take a course and learn how to swim. I hope you found this video helpful. Please click like and subscribe. It helps the channel and it helps the community. Be prepared.